This past March, I received a telephone call from, well, let's call him Randy here, who was quite disturbed and nervous about reporting an encounter he had the night before. He had been given my number by my cousin who knows him from a hunting club and who thought that I could offer him some help. Now, Randy is a property owner in King George County, Virginia, and has lived in the general location all his life. His property consists of about 70 plus acres on woodland and field. During the past few months, he and his family have noticed a variety of noises emanating from the thick woods that surround their property. Randy says that he picks his wife up from work and that they arrive home around 11 p.m. Many times they've heard loud knocking sounds, as well as these wretched screams. The screams are terrifying, and they seem to involve an animal suffering great pain. Randy's son has also been complaining that he's heard these screams in the morning while he's waiting for the school bus. In recent days up to the call, there's been indications that something unknown has been lurking in the woods. One evening, Randy had stepped out onto his back deck as he was followed by his 3 pit bull terriers. Right away, the dogs sensed alarm, and all 3 just stood silently while they watched the woods. Within a few seconds, they tucked their tails between their legs before scampering back into the house. As Randy stood there, surprised by his dog's reaction, he heard a loud snap that he said, quote, sounded like a small tree was broken in half. You see, now Randy believed that there had to be a rational explanation for these sounds. He has never believed in the paranormal or any cryptid beings. He's been a hunter most of his life, and he knows all the wildlife in the area. He was skeptical about claims of Bigfoot and other unexplained phenomena. That is, until he had his own frightening encounter. You see, he was driving home around 11 p.m. and was about to turn onto his driveway from the main road. King Mills Road, actually. As his headlight swept across the tree line that bordered his driveway, he was shocked by a huge pair of wide-set eyes that had a greenish eye-shine tint. Now, the height of these eyes was at least 8 feet from the ground, and the only form of this anomaly was biped and humanoid. The color of the body was reddish-brown, and he quickly proceeded up the driveway, parked his car before running into his house. The very next day, I received Randy's phone call. His confusion and distress were quite apparent as we talked. It seems he's facing a reality that these creatures do exist, and that he has at least one roaming his property. I assured Randy that it was fine to contact and update me if the activity continues. Dear Biker, in 1963, 5 of my cousins and I were driving around town on the Fort Belknap Indian community in north-central Montana. I'm of Nakota descent. And that's when we witnessed a really large Bigfoot standing on the hill in front of a full moon across the roadway that we had intended to drive on. When I saw the creature, I immediately turned the car around, stopped, and then jumped out to see if what I was seeing was real or something that was being faked. As I stood there, out of the car, watching it, I could see many features of its body and face. The main thing that I noticed was the size of its potbelly and the long hair down over its shoulders. Its legs were much shorter in comparison to its body, and its face was more pointed at the chin and jaw than a lot of the pictures that I've seen on film and books about Bigfoot. It was standing on the west side of the town, looking to the southeast at an area where a large canyon road with some old mining roads were at that time, and they could only be driven on by one car at a time. Before we left to go down to the road to find a local policeman, I yelled a few times to see what it would do, but it just kept staring down the direction of the canyon. Well, this year, I started reading the book called Ra, the Extraterrestrial, in which a female channels Ra, while a man with a couple of PhDs asks different questions about world mysteries. Well, Ra said that Bigfoot was a creature that had come here from another planet 6 million years ago, because their own planet had been blown up into a million pieces due to a war with another planet. The Van Allen belt is millions of rocks that orbit our planet, and is full of radioactive rock, according to Ra, because they had used atomic weaponry in their war. Ra said that Bigfoot was sent here because they needed a planet to finish their evolution, but they live in caves on our own world. Since I read that they live in caves, I find that satisfies me about what was happening with Bigfoot, because there are many caves and abandoned mines in the Little Rocky Mountains of Montana and the Badlands that are between the mountains and the Missouri River. I had always wondered where Bigfoot stayed before I read about its cave-dwelling preferences. Thanks for reading. Signed, Brian. Dear Tattooed, this happened somewhere in South Carolina. My boyfriend at the time and I were driving to Myrtle Beach. Now, I'm not a good passenger, and I tend to wig out on the interstate, so we were taking the back roads. It was pretty late at night, and we had just gone through some little podunk town, and we were in the woods now, pine tree woods. He was driving, and I looked over at him. Through the window, on his side, it looked like someone's laundry had come off the line and was getting blown around. Like a huge, big bed sheet getting hit by gusts of wind. Except that we were in the middle of the woods, and there were too many trees around for it to be laundry blowing around. So I'm looking dead at this big, white thing, and my brain just couldn't wrap around what it was. But it was coming straight at the car. The closest thing I can think of would be a pterodactyl. I'm panicking, and I'm positive we're going to die. So I start screaming, "Go, go, go." And my eyes are squeezed shut. And there's no way in hell I'm going to watch this thing kill us. Of course, we got away, but when we looked at the car, there was this big, snotty smear on the driver's side window. Now, we weren't drunk or anything, or recently released from any kind of psych facility. Any insight that you could offer would be really great. I've talked to other people about it, and no one has had a similar experience. In fact, I can't find much like it online. The closest thing I've found are thunderbirds, but this thing wasn't dark in color. Do you or your listeners have any ideas? Signed, Carrie. Hey Tattooed, the date was between either 2021 or 2022 during the summer. I know that doesn't narrow it down very much. I did get an overwhelmingly negative feeling from the whole experience. It really felt like it was coming for us, not just passing by. On that particular trip, we were coming from Roanoke, Virginia, and we'd gotten the directions from MapQuest. I've since lost contact with the boyfriend, and I'm pretty sure that he sold the car. The slimy smear never did come off that window. It was a greenish gray in color, like the discharge from a bad sinus infection. At the time, I remember thinking it was weird that it wouldn't come off and that we should scrape some off and maybe send it to a lab, but we didn't know anyone at the time. I don't really remember the name of the town, but I do remember thinking how much it looked like my dad's town. He lives in Bowman, South Carolina. It was all in a pretty rural area, so no stoplights. If you ever blinked going through there, then you would surely miss it. Dear TB, this happened almost 3 years ago. I'm not sure the exact date. It happened one night while coming home from my girlfriend's house. I saw something flying towards my car in the night sky at about 7:30 a.m. It had leather-like wings and was almost as big across as the windshield. I didn't get a very good look because it was dark, but it had almost reddish-orange eyes and swooped up right before it smashed into the windshield of my car. The whole time I was pumping the brakes, afraid it was going to hit me. I told my parents about it, but they tried to convince me it was a bat. But I told them, no, it was way, way too big to be a bat. And then, 1 year later, my dad told me he saw the same thing flying towards the windshield of his car on that same road and around the same spot. My brother had also seen it in the backyard as he was taking out the trash one night. While walking back from the fence, he saw the shadow of something on the ground, like it flew directly under the outside light, blocking it out. He was shocked by the size of the shadow, and then quickly heard something moving around in the trees. He told my dad, and they quickly went back inside. They couldn't see anything in the dark, but felt like they were being watched from the trees. Now, none of us have seen or experienced anything like this again. What made me decide to send this was an article I'd seen about flying dinosaurs. That might possibly be what I saw. I'm just not too sure. Any ideas from you or your watchers would be welcome. I just know it was pretty big, larger than the size of a man. P.S. I live in South Carolina, and this also happened in the wintertime. Thanks. Signed, Mick. Biker. This happened in Pickens, South Carolina, on a back road called Shady Grove Road. The wings were light-colored, almost white, and were bat-like, and they didn't appear to be covered with feathers. I couldn't get too good of a look at the body. It just all happened so fast, but the wings were so noticeable because of the size, shape, and color. The thing was at least the length of the windshield. It was flying at an angle toward the car. I don't know if it had come over the hill on the right side of me or from the field on the left. It was still pretty dark out, and it was flying at a good speed. It almost impacted my car. The thing I remember the most, it was about the size of a man with extremely long wings. The head also had a very triangular shape. Thanks. Signed, Mick. And there it is. All the true reports of strange encounters and sightings that I have for you tonight. So what'd you think about these? As always, I'm anxious to read your thoughts and theories down in the comments below, but please, keep it respectful to the witnesses. And if you have an unexplained encounter that you'd like to share, just send it to the email address in the description and, well, your story may just wind up in a future video. Anyways, thanks so much for taking this weird ride with me tonight. I really appreciate you. And until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, stay safe, and well, I'll be seeing you on down the road a ways. Biker out.